What's going on, everyone? So I've talked about how there are a lot of characters in this upcoming Scream 7. I mean, like 20 plus characters. Right? And we're getting like little kind of background characters, all kinds of stuff over and over again. But with the fact that Scream 8 has been greenlit, with the fact that Scream 8 we know is slated to come out in 2027. I mean, they're supposed to start filming as soon as March, right? And this movie comes out in February. So, I mean, they're trying to bam, bam. Like, here's one movie, here's the next, which again leads me to believe that this is going to kind of just be one story, that this is very likely going to be part one of part two type thing. So, it would make sense that you would have such a large character pool. I mean, this might be I'd have to look at like Scream 5 because Scream 5 had a lot of characters kind of introduced, but this one I'm pretty sure has more. Like this might be the largest kind of character pool that we've ever had in a Scream movie because again, like I said, you have several returning characters, right? You have what 4 or 5 returning characters plus you have like 15 new characters and you're going to have to tell the story of all these things. Like, I really am just leaning to most of these actors and actresses that you see are all going to survive. Not all of them, like literally all of them, but I think most of them, right? Like, there's like I said, there's like 21, 22 characters in total. I think what will happen is we'll probably, my guess, again, I don't know this. This is just solely a guess. My guess is I think you'll get again kind of a handful of deaths, right? Like maybe six, 5, 6 character deaths, right? And then you'll get like 2 or 3 Ghostface deaths. So you'll get like maybe 8 to 9 at most deaths, but you'll still have like 14 characters left over, right? You might have like the random background character death, like the janitor or like the cop that's just like laying there at the hospital or, the psych patient, right? Who's just probably going to be in the film for a moment and Gail's supposed to run over and all that stuff, right? Like, I think you'll get stuff like that, right? Where you kind of have like, hey, here's a character for a moment and then they die. And then, that's kind of just like, the throwaway character, the ghost face fodder. Right. But I think ultimately we're gonna get done with this film and you're gonna be like, wow, there's 15 characters alive, which they kind of did in Scream 6, which was frustrating. However, if this film is a continuation, then I'm okay with that. Right? Like, it's hard to swallow or digest when a slasher horror film doesn't kill anybody outside of a bunch of people in a bodega that are basically a bunch of NPCs. And then, everybody lives at the end and it's this kumbaya happily ever after. Like that, I don't buy. But if this is something where, hey, this is part one of part two, yes, you got like 22 characters, but it's because in Scream 8, we can't establish a bunch of new characters because we're trying to tell one cohesive story, right? So instead of spinning all of Scream 8, developing, 5, 6, 7 new characters, you might have a couple new characters, but instead of trying to establish, an entirely new cast like you do every Scream movie, now you don't have to do that. You can kind of continue on with characters. You can also kind of get a feel for what characters hit, right? If you have a character or two that hit that ends up surviving, well, then maybe you can, quickly give them a bigger role or give them a bigger opportunity or whatever, right? Like, so to me, I do think that there is a lot of sense to be made that, like, hey, yeah, we have a ton of characters, but it's because we need to have this story be able to continue. We need to be able to allow this to kind of truck along and reach the point where, like, because if you just kill everybody in this film, then, like I said, now you have to establish an entirely new cast because you need to develop characters to actually have us care that characters die, right? But like, you think of like I said, I've talked about this before. You think of like Halloween 18 and Halloween Kills. I really do think that this is going to be similar. Like I really do. Like I don't believe that they greenlit Scream 7 and 8 at basically the exact same time for this film to just kind of be its own thing. Right? Like obviously they have a story that they want to continue and expand on. And so I really do think that we're going to again see that formula of 18 and ends. I think you're going to have all these characters coming in, all these new characters. You got, like, don't get me wrong, some are going to be AI and, it's deep fakes, like all the Ghostface that are returning and stuff. But I think you're going to have a bunch of new characters that you have established that you're going to want to kind of, build upon this film. This is kind of the foundation film. Here's the friend group. Here's all this stuff. Ghostface comes in, right? Like, again, you look at Halloween 18, only, you had a handful of deaths, really. You had a handful of deaths. It was more kind of like building up and establishing the characters and creating the tension. And, is Laurie really crazy or not? But we as an audience know that she's not crazy, all of that. And then Halloween Kills was the bloodbath. Right? I mean, it's literally called Halloween Kills. Right? Everybody just gets kind of ran through. So I think it would make sense to have Scream 7 be that 18 film where this is the setup and establishment film. Here's the introduction to all the characters. Here's the introduction to the grand plot and scheme that we're going to talk about over the next few films. Here's, the killers, right? Maybe some of them end up dying, but it still sets up the grander scheme things. Yes, maybe the characters aren't privy to like what it is, but we as an audience know what it is, type thing. Right? Like, and that is something that I think we can, kind of again continue to build upon and watch them kind of create. So to me, that's the only, like, because otherwise you're either not going to be able to develop all these characters, and you're going to have a bunch of like random characters that are pointless, or you're going to have a bunch of like Ghostface fodder where like, like Scream 5 kind of did that, right? You had like Vince and Wes and all these characters that like you didn't get any time with. You didn't develop them. You didn't again, like, why do I care they did that? Like, I felt the same way about Annika. It's like, outside of Mindy's girlfriend, why do I care that she dies? She has like 3 lines in the entire movie, right? And it's just like, hey, you need your brother type thing. Like, it's just, like, there's no connection. There's no buildup. There's no like reason for any of these. Like, so either you're just saying like, hey, we're terrible at writing characters, which I wouldn't be surprised based on Scream 5 and 6. So either they're just like, hey, we just give up trying to write characters, so we're just gonna have a bunch of characters in there and they're all just gonna die and it's just gonna be this like crazy bloodbath, and they're trying to go for like the highest kill count to like wash out Scream 6 out of everyone's mouths. Right? Like either that or they're setting up and establishing, hey, here are a bunch of characters that are going to, once again, bleed into Scream 8. Yes, a handful of these characters are going to die. You're going to have a couple obviously be Ghostface, all of that. Boom, there you go. And then you're going to have that continuation and that carryover and all those other things, right? Like, and then Ghostface is going to just kind of run rampant through this town, and you have a bunch of deaths, a bunch of madness, a bunch of carnage, and Ghostface is going to be badass and it's going to be cool, right? Like that, and then, like I said, probably have a Scream 9. I don't think they're going to stop after Scream 8 personally. Again, we'll see. It's all about the execution and delivery. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion. Pass question to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. What do you think? What are your thoughts? Agree, disagree, mixed in the middle? Either way, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Else not, so we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.